Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Oliver. So I was having a hard time thinking of what the heck I should talk about for my next podcast episode, so I decided that I'm going to try something a little new and do this like shorts type of dealio, where I just talk about whatever it is and make it a nice little short clip, and hopefully you guys will find it interesting. As some of you may know, I am in engineering right now. I'm in my third year, and I am currently looking for a job for the summer. Either for the summer or for the next 16 months. I have no preference. I would be definitely okay with taking a whole year off just to get some practical skills in, and I would be okay with doing 4 months and then going back to school. As I have been thinking about this job hunt looming over my head has just really been making me feel down. It's like I'm going to put in all of this work, all of this effort, and spend hours of my time making a resume and a cover letter just for one application. It usually takes at least like 2 or 3 hours, and you might not even hear back from the company that you applied to. So why even bother? I know it's definitely not the right mentality, and I have definitely been trying to kick myself out of it. So I've kind of set up a little challenge for myself, which is to apply to 100 jobs in 100 days. So I want to apply to at least one job every day for the next 3 months or so. And hopefully, one, I will be able to learn a thing or two. Two, I actually get some interviews. And three, I might actually get a job. But I do have a couple like backup plans if I can't get a job related to my field. So yeah, that's always there, which is good. Regardless of what happens, I'm definitely going to be working this summer because it sucks to have tuition hanging over your head for the next year. Thinking about it, you're like thinking about it all the time because school will be expensive and nobody like paying the tuition, but it has to be done if you want to finish a degree. So yeah, that's the plan. I'm really hoping that this YouTube thing works out too. I have seen like some significant growth for me. I know for like a lot of other people, it's not like that impressive, but for myself, I'm shocked as to how many people are like pressing the subscribe button and liking my videos and even watching my videos. It's honestly super like nice to see, and I'm like makes me very happy to see it. And I'm glad that people are enjoying what I'm putting out there on the internet. But I also think that I kind of want to try and like stay more true to myself. Because don't get me wrong, I do love engineering, but I want to find a good way to present it that's interesting and like educational, but also something that I would enjoy like putting together. Obviously, not every single part of putting a video together will be enjoyable, just like going to school. Not every single class you're going to like, but you still have to do it. At least if you tell yourself you have to do it, then you have to do it. And I have set it as one of my goals to try and upload a new video each week. And I told myself I would be uploading a new podcast each week, but that hasn't happened yet because I've just blatantly run out of ideas for my podcast. So here I am. Here's the update video, I guess I'll call it. But anyway, let's talk a little bit more about jobs because I have a really hard time with the whole like job hunting process, and just it really confuses me that it is the way it is and that people accept it the way it is. Obviously, it's nice to have the ability to not know a person in a company and just throw a resume in and say, okay, like here are my qualifications. I saw you had an open job posting, hire me. But there are some companies where why even bother advertising the job posting if you aren't going to hire any of the people who apply with their resume and you're just going to hire the person that you talk to at the career fair? Like, what's the point? Why put up the job posting if you already know the position's going to be filled by some like random person that meets the hiring recruiter in the right place at the right time? And I guess the counter argument to that would be, well, then we won't have a big enough field of people to choose from, and maybe we see someone's resume that we think is really interesting and we would rather hire them than the random person we see at the job fair, to which I say fair. However, I still think that that's kind of dumb, and that most, if not all, of the jobs out there are found because of like knowing someone, or you like kind of talking to people, working your way up through different avenues and making connections and things like that. So what is the big deal here? Hey, Oliver from the future here. So I thought of another reason on behalf of all of the employers out there as to why they might want to post the job rather than just hire the random person they meet at the job fair. And I was thinking that it's because they want to have the tasks that this person will be doing completely laid out in the job posting so that it probably has something to do with like HR, like you have to have the job posted. And there's always like this is what you'll be doing. Here's your contract. It's basically like a job posting is basically a preliminary contract. So I think that's another reason as to why you might want to actually post the job. So back to you, Oliver. Yeah, so the whole like job application process really bothers me. And the thing that really like bothers me too is that you can apply to so many jobs and just nothing. And it's like all of that time was just wasted. And it could be that you're not being strong enough in your job application, but most of the time it's just because you don't know someone in the company and therefore your stuff doesn't even get looked at. So it doesn't make any sense to even apply. Anyway, so I'm having a really hard time with that, and I'm honestly in the kind of the camp of I would rather dictate what I make myself. So through something like a YouTube channel where like the amount of money you make is tied to whether or not people like what you're making and like subscribe to your channel and like your videos and watch your videos. And like that is where your money is tied to in a YouTube channel. For people that do make money on YouTube. And so you're basically like paid on your own success or the success of something that you made rather than like working for someone else and helping them to be more successful than they already are, right? So I don't know. There's something about that bothers me. The fact that like you have to apply to this job and like really, really, really try and get this job and you're, I guess, not the one who's directly benefiting from it. Although in some ways you could say that you are benefiting from it because you get to learn the social skills and all of these other things, but it doesn't really make all that much sense to me. So I really think that what I'm going to end up doing is just starting my own business of like web development because there are tons of freelance web developers out there, and I've even managed to get a job myself as a freelance web developer. So if I could like do good in that job and keep like and actually perform well and get things done on time and kind of set up my own schedule and have the self initiative to like create these websites and get them done and post them and learn on your own. The only problem is like the self motivation, right? I feel like it's easier to self-motivate when you kind of have something on the line, like you have a mortgage to pay or you have bills to pay, which luckily none of which I really have to deal with. I do have the tuition on the line, but that's like a split problem between me and my parents, and they have done a lot of work paying for my tuition, so forever grateful for that. But also, it doesn't add enough stress to my life. I don't know if the stress would be good of having to pay for like my own bills and my own rent and my own like food and everything. I don't know if it would be more beneficial having that stress or if it would be less beneficial and I would just like feel like the world is against me. I honestly don't really know how that would work out, but I have noticed that when I'm living away from home, there's just something about that feeling of like having your own place that really like motivates you to like in a different way than you would be if you were just at home. I think it could also be even like the small tasks, doing like your own laundry or making your own meals. And even if you're not like fully directly paying for it, but having those small responsibilities is really I think a big help in like personal growth and development. So I think it's like really important for people to leave their parents' house at some point, and it allows you to kind of like grow on your own and set your own like I don't know, it's an interesting topic, and I definitely think that people should be like going out and having an opportunity to live on their own when like as soon as they can. And I think it's like a good a good growth realization dealio. So for my 100 jobs in 100 days challenge thingy that I'm going to be doing, I think that I'm going to count like emailing my professors and like previous people that I know as applying to a job. I'm just going to ask them like, hey, I liked your class and I think what you were doing was pretty cool. I did good in this class. I'm probably only going to email the professors that I did good in their class and ask if they have any like projects or anything that they could use an intern for, or even like a volunteer position for, because having something on my resume would be better than nothing at this point. Although I do have like quite a few experiences in web development that I can put on my resume. But I just am not applying to enough places right now. Which is why I'm doing this challenge, so that I can force myself to get more resumes out there to different companies, because at a certain point it's just like a numbers game, right? If you apply to enough places, eventually one of them has to say yes, right? Right? And I also think that doing it in kind of a challenge format makes it feel because there are times where like I would just kind of send off like a resume that was basically cut and paste from like a different job posting. But for all of these new ones that I'm going to be sending out and these cover letters, I really want to try my absolute hardest to make each and every single one of them like applicable to that particular position. And I know like people tell you to do this all the time, that you have to tailor every single cover letter and resume, but nobody has time for that. So I've decided that the way I'm going to try and do that is by doing this challenge thing and filming each application that I do, or at least like mentally filming each application that I do, and then that way I can like make sure that whatever I'm showing is actually good. So hopefully by putting a little bit more time and effort into these things, I will actually have a good shot at employment. Yeah, so hopefully I will be able to send out fewer resumes that are stronger and that make a better impression on the companies that I'm applying to. And hopefully I get more interviews from less applications, but that's hopeful thinking, wishful thinking. And I think that what's going to end up getting me the job at the end of the day is emailing my professors or emailing people that I've like been in contact with before and asking them if they have something that I can do for them and get paid to do. That's pretty much going to be what it comes down to, because I don't think any of this online application stuff is like it. I don't think it works except for like very, very few companies in small cases. But you're not going to get noticed just through a resume and a cover letter. So I think it's not really beneficial to waste your time doing that unless you put in a lot of effort and you try and really, really stand out. But there's going to be a lot of other people that are putting in just as much, if not more effort into an application and that have better qualifications than you, that are doing better at school than you. So there is really like, you really have to think about what you have to offer and whether or not like applying is even worth it for you, and if you should just try and like network, talk to people, go to career fairs, and like send emails to people that you've worked with in the past, because that's going to be what works out at the end of the day, in my personal opinion. I have been hired to two jobs through a resume, and I've had like 5 or 6 jobs in the past. So most of the other jobs were either references from the current employers that I was working for. I would apply to a different part of another job, or I physically went up to and spoke to a manager of a completely different job that I had all the qualifications for, and I had like, it was a lifeguarding job and I was working as a day camp counselor. And so I literally just walked up to the person and I was like, hey, I just finished up my lifeguarding courses. Do you have any available shifts in the next like yada yada that I can pick up? And she was like, oh yeah, just send me an email and we'll get you on. And I was like, all right, say no more. So like stuff like that, I don't know if I'll ever be able to recreate that. And I'm very good at living in the past because I'm starting to realize now that that was insanely lucky and that does not happen every day. But I think if you kind of like put yourself out there and just go and do it, I know it's hard to when you're sitting inside and kind of just doing whatever. But if you go and put yourself out there, then your odds of like succeeding are actually pretty good. At least in my personal experiences, that's what it's been. And I also think that it's important to like care about yourself, care about your appearance, because people people are going to be prejudiced whether or not you like it, based on how you present yourself. And I had a hard time with this, and I still have a hard time with this because I don't really care all that much what other people think of me. That's like not entirely true. Like obviously I do care to some extent, and it does hurt me to see someone saying my video sucked. But the point that I'm getting at here is that like I don't really care how I would like appear to someone else. And I've been really like trying to care less about that, because I don't think it's like healthy to obsess over something that like maybe you can't change, right? But I do realize that there is a good middle ground that is like not quite obsessing over something, but just taking care of like your general hygiene, always trying to like present your best self, and only to the extent that like it improves your odds of like whatever getting a job or something, but not to the extent where you're doing it just to try and I don't know, just because there's something that maybe you don't like. But again, man, I'm always all over the place on these topics. But I think what I'm trying to get at here is that it's important to look after yourself, but it's not important to care about what other people think about you. But if you want to get a job, then you have to care. So there's this kind of like flip-flopping back and forth. And then once you get the job, you can go back to how you were before. But just getting the job is the hard part in the first place. So yeah, pretend, be as fake as you possibly want to. You could even embellish on your resume. Honestly, I highly recommend it. I'm not telling you to lie. I'm just telling you to stretch the truth a little bit. Not saying I've ever done that before. I'm just saying I know that it is a common thing. And most of the time, the people that are hiring you would, like, once you get to the interview stage, it is basically fair game. And you can, like, if you can reasonably back up your own claims and prove the things that you said, and, like, if they call your reference and you're off by, like, a couple, like, a number or two, I don't think the person on the other end of the line, like your previous manager, is going to flinch. I've also noticed that, like, when you care about the thing about caring about, like, your appearance and maybe even the good side to not liking something about yourself is that if it's, like, physical activity and your own health, and you don't like the fact that you've been, like, stuck inside all quarantine and you've just been sitting and you've not been doing a good job of, like, keeping a diet, and you haven't been exercising as much, and you're, like, kind of upset, you might have gained like 5 or 10 pounds or something. I think realizing that, like, that you're screwing up and not being happy with yourself in this case can be a positive motivator into, like, kicking you into action to actually do something. It's like the whole like, failure kind of, like, makes people work harder, depending on the kind of person and depending how you take your failures. But for me, most of the time, if I fail at something, that just makes me want to, like, work my ass off even more to make sure that doesn't happen again. One, because the feeling of failure is not a great feeling. Feeling like you screwed up doesn't feel good. So in some ways, working to avoid that is a really good motivator. You can't use that as a motivator forever, but if you can find something to motivate yourself in any sense, that'll make you like improve and be a better person, then definitely like use whatever it is you need to use to motivate yourself. I watched this documentary it was a Michael Jordan documentary. I think not everyone, but it was on Netflix like probably about a year ago, and it was a really interesting documentary. And I remember there was this one clip where someone was asking Michael Jordan, like, because he like really went hard during one of the games and just like blew everyone out of the water. And everyone, like one of his teammates asked him, or someone on the team asked him, like, hey, like what, like, why the hell did you go so hard? And why did you have like, why were you, like, what happened? Like, what the hell was the motivator? And then he said that the guy from the other team, like, chirped at him or something, like called him a name or something like that. Or after they lost, I think it was something like good game to Michael. And then Michael got really pissed off. And then the next game, he just like completely shredded the other team. But then you learn that this actually never happened. And Michael Jordan just made that up in his head that the guy on the other team was making fun of him. And he used that to motivate himself to kick their ass in the next game. So I found that really cool. And there is a very small number of people in the world that could do something like that and like make up something, like mentally, like drill it into their brain to the point where they can use it to motivate themselves. That takes some like gusto and some very strong willpower. And the fact that he was able to use that to like really motivate himself to perform at like his absolute highest was insane. And I think that everyone could kind of like take from that and try and find anything you can to motivate yourself. It's always, for me personally, things that have been motivating me recently is just like throwing this camera in front of my face, because applying to jobs is a really, really annoying process. I love how I managed to bring from Michael Jordan back to jobs. But applying to jobs is this really like tedious process, and I've never liked it. And like, I want to have a job, right? So those two things don't really mix. If you don't like the process and you don't like any part of it, like, how do you expect to get a job? So by putting a camera in front of me and filming every job application that I'm making, that is going to make sure, that's my motivator. That's my like exterior force causing me to try and do better and to try and improve on these resumes and to try and take it seriously. So I think that whatever you can find to help you do that, super cool. And I also think that it's kind of important when you're doing things and you've found like success to like give yourself intermittent rewards. So for example, if you're like studying a lot, I think it's good to like let yourself take like a 15-minute break and watch like a YouTube video, or let yourself just, relax after you've done a bit of work, because then you're kind of like conditioning the fact that if you work, then you will be rewarded for your work. It's like training a dog, but training yourself to like get your work done, study and cover letters, resumes, all that good stuff. Yeah, so final thoughts on the whole resume and jobs thing. If you really don't like the idea of working for someone else, or someone else kind of like dictating how much you get paid, or someone else, kind of holding your, I guess, livelihood in their hands, unless it's the government, because government jobs are pretty secure or like a good union job even. Most of those jobs are pretty secure, and you are honestly pretty solid if you get one of those, but that's a big if. So final thoughts here are, if you don't like those like ideas of somebody kind of like dictating some corporate stuff, dictating like what you get paid, or like how much you get paid, whatever, then just incorporate yourself, make a personal business, start the business on your own, and just like work your ass off for your own money. And I don't know, maybe you won't like it. Maybe you'll see that it's really difficult. And from my personal experience, it is really difficult. And in some ways, getting someone to pay you is a whole lot easier than going out there and convincing other people to hire your company, aka yourself, for the certain skill set that you might be offering, or the certain service that you might be offering. So there are definitely ups and downsides to either one that you choose. And always remember that you always have options. Like you can always take a break, choose to do something else. But having money definitely helps with all of those things. And I know that a lot of people just kind of get jobs because they need to have money and they need to like eat. So yeah, but definitely don't devalue yourself just because, like don't take like a stupidly low paying job just because you feel like you're forced to. I guess that doesn't make much sense. If you're forced to, then you wouldn't be taking that job. Well, that's a bit of a paradox there, isn't it? Let's say that if you have the option to and you're just trying to like gain some experience and you are willing to work for like free, you're basically willing to volunteer for a company. I think that you shouldn't be devaluing the skill set that you're offering to a company, even if they have to train you a little bit. Just make sure that you are like valuing yourself properly and that, people pay you like they're supposed to. So I guess that's all for now. I've been rambling for a really long time. Let me know your thoughts on this topic in the comments down below. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more from me. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to listen to me ramble on, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.